This episode is undoubtedly more focused on the cultural and historical aspects of northern Iran. Altogether, we visit a handful of some renowned but also less popular UNESCO sites. We stay in the capital for a few days, pretty empty and quiet though due to the Persian New Year festivities. Lastly, we visit the Holy Shrine in Qom, one of the most sacred pilgrimage sites for Shi'a Muslims. In our last episode, we entered the land of the Azeris, the Guardians of Fire, the crossing of which we now complete driving through the western mountains of the Zanjan province. We failed the attempt to reach the Caspian Sea through the Elbrus Mountains and had to painfully retrace our route back to Qazvin. After a few days in the capital of Iran, we drive gently south until we reach Qom. Early morning, we leave the parking complex in Miandovap where we stayed overnight, an industrial yet lively and very busy city, particularly crowded in late evening. It doesn't take long until we are back in snowy mountains, and as you can see from these images, the road conditions are excellent. The Takht-e Soleiman is a rarely visited UNESCO site, a historical cultural complex with traces of human settlement from the first millennium BC. The citadel lies on a hill created by the outflow of a calcium-rich spring pond. According to some historians, this was the birthplace of Zoroaster. The Adul Gush Nasp, a Zoroastrian fire temple, housed one of the three great fires that Sassanid rulers humbled themselves before in order to ascend the throne. The UNESCO site of Soltanieh Dome has one of the largest brick domes in the world, actually the third largest after the Florence Cathedral and Hagia Sophia. It's an octagonal mausoleum built by a Mongol ruler in the early 14th century. Much of its exterior decorations has been lost, but the interior retains spectacular mosaics, faience and murals. This does mean an awful lot of narrow stairs to squeeze through to get back to solid ground. We are back on the road. We crossed the Zanjan province and climbed the Elbrus mountains with the intention of reaching the southern shore of the Caspian Sea. Here is a humble example of how we camp overnight. A large stone does all we need to keep the vehicle flat. The next morning, a big surprise. A few kilometers before the mountain pass, there is a dead end. The road is blocked by a snow wall. I was too frustrated and forgot to take a picture. This is how it looked before the summit. But every cloud has a silver lining. Back in Qazvin, we discover a cozy and distinctively pleasant city center. While visiting the Chahel Seton Palace, on the second floor we meet two ladies who charmingly offer to write any text in traditionally Farsi calligraphy, an opportunity we can't miss.
Very nice. Thank you. This is former palace for the Takht mosque in Safavid.
Yeah.
We are in Nuruz holiday, it's having New Year for Persian.
It's like an art. It's amazing the way you are writing. It's wonderful.
It's wonderful. Have a nice day, have a good day, have a good trip in Qazvin, in Iran.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We are in Tehran. There are so many things to show, but we will focus on a few, or these would turn into a documentary. Starting with the Mausoleum Palace, one of the most beautiful palaces of the Qajar era, decorated in a mixed Iranian-European style and home to many cultural buildings, such as the first Iranian National Museum and Library in 1925. Buckle up, it's getting intense now. History nerds, suit up. The prestigious Galleston Palace was built, renovated, and used as a royal residence by the Qajar, the Safavid, and the Zand dynasties, amongst others. It consists of royal buildings with the renowned main halls, the gardens, and the collections of Iranian crafts and European presents from the 18th and 19th centuries. The marble throne is a spectacular terrace that embodies the finest of Iranian architecture. The throne is made of 65 pieces of marble and was formerly used for the coronations of the Qajar kings, the last being Reza Shah of the Pahlavi dynasty in 1925. I'm glad I don't have to sit in that all day. The Ivory Hall is a large space used as a dining room. It was decorated with some gifts presented to Nasser ad-Din Shah by European monarchs. During the Pahlavi period, it was the venue of official parties and celebrations. Its interior has changed to a great deal, and the summer chamber beneath has been turned into an art gallery. The Mirror Hall is the most famous of the halls of the Galleston Palace, notorious for its extraordinary and fascinating mirrorwork. It was constructed between 1874 and 1877 and once housed the Peacock Throne. It features extraordinary chandeliers, as well as fine porcelain from France, Germany and the UK. In the brilliant hall is where the use of mirrored glass on all surfaces and twinkling chandelier reaches its apogee, all skillfully crafted by Iranian artisans. Tehran is situated between the towering Alborz mountains to its north and the country's central desert to the south, and is the most populous city in Western Asia. People are very friendly, have an excellent education, and in particular the young ones understand basic English. We obviously had to visit the Grand Bazaar, a complex with different entrances split into several corridors of over 10 kilometers in length, each specializing in different types of goods. Tehran's Grand Bazaar experiences very busy days ahead of the new Iranian year, with people trying to get ready for the arrival of the Nowruz, but as you know, we were a little late for that. Our images are therefore of empty corridors and closed shops, with their own charm though, a lesser seen side of the bazaar. In traditional Iranian restaurants, a large, low table lined with Persian rugs and surrounded by cushions is the typical setting for a meal. Diners sit cross-legged in a circle and food is served in the center, eaten with courtesy on separate plates. Restaurants have a characteristic ambience and architecture adorned with chandelier, tiles and paintings. In Persian, the word Darband means gateway or door to the mountain. Today it's a neighborhood inside Tehran's metropolitan limits and basically the beginning of a hiking trail to the Mount Chahel, which towers over Tehran. At the entrance there is a 2 kilometers long narrow path, dotted with a multitude of dried fruit shops, small cafes and restaurants. These are quite popular and busy in the evenings, as local and tourists alike visit the many hookah lounges along the trail. The traditional dish is a shish kebab, a skewer with meat and vegetables, typically lamb, beef, fish or chicken, as well as green peppers, onions and mushrooms, 100% organic and grilled to perfection.
Brother, my name is Mohammed Mehdi Samia. What is?
No İngilizce ben
No English. Yes.
Okay, merci.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Merci.
Darband is also a popular weekend destination for Iranians, who come here to relax and to escape from the traffic and Tehran's polluted air. Leaving Tehran and heading south towards Qom, we can already feel the first heat waves originating in the huge desert plains of central Iran. The shrine of Fatima Mausoleum in Qom is considered by Shi'a Muslims to be the second most sacred city in Iran after Mashhad. Some say it's even more sacred. You cannot simply walk in and take pictures. There is a strict protocol to follow at the entrance, and people like us are escorted during the entire visit. Chiara needs to wear a long hijab, and I have to deposit my camera gear, only left with my mobile phone. A nearly perfect English-speaking alim brings us first to a sumptuous reception building where we have a small chat and were served refreshing water. He then walks us around the courtyards and prayer halls, answering faithfully all our curious questions. Qom has around 20 million pilgrims visiting the city every year. In Shia Islam, women are often revered as saints if they are close relatives to one of the 12 imams, and that's the case with Fatima Masumeh. Her shrine in Qom is considered the most significant Shi'i shrines in Iran. Pilgrims at the shrine of Fatima Masumeh follow rituals that have been passed down for centuries. The shrine is crowded every day of the year with Shi'i men, women and children from all around the world. Some stay for hours or days, praying at the mosque and circling her tomb. Although initially hesitant, we have been truly surprised by the hospitality and the open dialogue, and leave happy to have learned something new about the Shi'a Muslims. Walking past the shops selling souvenir and food to the pilgrims, we are attracted by a bakery preparing fresh pita bread. We walk in, have a small chat, take a few pictures, and eventually leave with a few sheets of pita. Our journey will now continue towards Isfahan, but that's a story for next time.